Oh boy, what an interesting last 24 hours it's been. So, about 2 days ago, I received, I'm on the RNC's text list for some reason. I got a text message from Kristi Noem, and she said, "Hey, if you donate $35, I'll send you a signed copy of my new book, which is called No Going Back, and it's due to be released in a few weeks." But prior to the book coming out, The Guardian reported that Noam bought a dog that she claimed went out of her mind with excitement, chasing around birds, and even was resistant to an electric collar. And that the dog, after escaping her vehicle, killed several chickens and then whipped around to bite Noam, which led her to conclude that she hated the dog, that was dangerous to humans, less than worthless for a hunting dog, and that led to her killing this 14-month-old dog. And after that, she went and also decided to kill a male goat that was chasing around her children and knocking them down. Um, there are a lot of people on Twitter that are blowing a fuse about how evil Noam is for doing this, for taking out these animals, especially the dog. And I would be much more sympathetic to her if this had been an old dog that was sick and she took it to the pound. But no, she did the old Yeller treatment where, okay, this dog is an inconvenience to me, so go over there, dog, load up your weapon, take it out. And I'm just going to say this. In every past instance where I've talked about Noam, I've always tried to make sure to mention that I held the belief that she would make the most sense of any of the people that Trump would be likely to consider for his running mate than anyone else. She was a almost two-term governor who was very popular within her state. By the outward appearances, appeared to be well liked or competent in her supposed governance. Again, from outward appearances, people who actually know her record would think differently. So I thought she'd be a better pick than someone like Tim Scott or Ramaswamy or you know I know Sarah Huckabee Sanders said she doesn't want it, but she's I think just too early in her term to even be considered for that. And Carrie Lake can't win an election to save herself. So my point, and we don't have to talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene. That's already like another circus. But my point is that I've always maintained that Noam would make the most sense as Trump's running mate. I think he would have his best chance of winning if we're looking strictly at people who were talked about as being on his list, barring maybe Tulsi Gabbard, who I just don't think anyone should trust because she's flipped and switched her stuff so much you don't know what she actually believes, right? But besides Gabbard, I think I have always maintained that Noam would have been Trump's strongest pick for a running mate. Now I'm having to eat my words because the one thing that unites liberals, conservatives, independents is that most people like animals, even the ones who aren't really as into them as others, right? Like I don't for example, I'm not as fond of pets as other people are. I would say there's still like a human reaction of, did you really have to kill this dog that was only a year old because it was acting up? Like, you would think you would try to train it and make sure that it can better withstand some self-restraint and not go around and doing these types of things. Kind of the way that a lot of people would say, when you have a kid, you raise it, and so less likely the chances are that it'll do something bad or damaging to others. But a lot of people are disgusted with her for doing this, and I think they are justified in being disgusted and are roasting her all across the board. I've seen conservatives making fun of her. I mean, the liberals are having a field day. You have Democratic governors. I think Whitmer was laughing at her. There's a whole bunch of people just finding complete entertainment in this, along with pure disgust, like legitimate disgust at Noam for murdering these animals. But my problem with this story is more so the like. I'm just gonna say this: if Trump picks her as his running mate, which I don't think he will after this, but if he were to pick her as his running mate, 90 something percent of his supporters would not give a damn because it's a cult and they will go along with anyone that he gives the stamp of approval with. Trump already is someone that I don't think likes dogs anyway because he always describes people or women he doesn't like as dogs. So I figure it wouldn't be that big of a turnoff to him to know that she took out an animal or multiple animals. But one of the saddest parts about American politics is we get caught up in the day by day news stories to where the actual substantive issues are not as talked about or as addressed as they should be. Noem is a disgrace of a governor. There's no other way to put it. This is a lady who refused to enforce the statewide mask mandates, which led to her, even though it's one of the smaller ones, having a very large number of casualties. This is an individual who abolished needing a permit to have concealed carry in her state. Oh, you don't need to have any type of restrictions on or any type of like passing whatsoever to just have a weapon on you at all times. This is someone who believes if you get, I don't want to use the R word, you should be forced to have the baby of the person who did the R word, including if you're a 10-year-old girl. So my only regret in Noem getting roasted, and it has been fun watching the reactions, is that there are substantive things that have shown her for what she is, which is this extreme, ridiculous, posturing politician who just can't take a side on anything that would be remotely considered moderate or for the well-being of other people. I'm really sad that this is the story it took for her name to get to be trending and being talked about by people who in some cases aren't even into this stuff. And that's why I said I think this story, unfortunately, is if there's a reason that she doesn't get picked as Trump's running mate, it'll be this over her actual horrendous gubernatorial record, which I know a lot of right-wingers will say that they like. And it's a sad state of affairs when somebody can completely ignore science and be totally fine with having thousands of people die, preventable deaths. And that goes undiscussed in the years afterward. Nobody really talks about it anymore. Oh, the virus is done. But oh man, we found out that she killed a dog and a goat. How dare she? And again, it's like I don't support people kill. Like I maintain, even as not the biggest animal person, reading that stuff made me sick to my stomach. She said the dog was worthless. That she hated the dog. I mean, I've used similar language when I describe people I have animosity towards, but I think we all understand animals are not as sentient of what they do as human beings, right? That there is a difference between what we as people can do and what animals are trained to do, and she did not train it and thus was upset when the dog that she had failed to train did not act in a trained manner. But man, reading that stuff was just gross, and it's really I don't know how. And again, this is why I said American politics is so like backwards. In a true civilized society, her issues with the record I just brought up would be disqualifying in and of themselves. But there's still a realistic chance that she might get picked as Trump's running mate. And if she's made to be in a debate with Harris, for example, there's no way that this doesn't get brought up. And unfortunately, because we live in, we have a lot of people just don't pay attention to this stuff. They don't really care. This will be a more effective hit piece on her. It's not even a hit piece. I shouldn't even call it that. But this will be a more effective counter to her qualifications as being a heartbeat away from the presidency than her atrocious record while she's been governing South Dakota. And that's sad. The only solace I take in this story is that it looks like more people who don't follow this stuff, more people who couldn't care less about this stuff, are at least coming together to say in unity that the current governor of South Dakota is a terrible, awful individual.